Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. Like I said, I know I haven't been making so many videos over these last couple of months, but I'm hoping that I could start making a few more as the weeks continue toward the end of the year and the beginning of next year. So for today, I wanted to talk a little bit about upgrading comic books. Honestly, I think now, and I think this is going to continue for a little while. I mean, I can't predict how long, but I think that now is a really good time to upgrade some books, especially some of those blue chip Silver Age books, and others too. And that's what I've been doing. I mean, I wish I could upgrade a little bit more and a little more quickly, but pacing myself a bit. But for 2023, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, or at least I think I did, 2023 is really going to be the year of the upgrade for me. Not that I'm not going to get newer books, but I really think it's going to be pretty cool when it comes to upgrades. So anyway, that's what I want to dedicate this video to. I've come down with three things for me when it comes to upgrading it and how to do it that work for me. All right, so let's start with the first one. Whenever I go to upgrade a book, I've found that it's just for me now. I found that it's always easier to upgrade a book that's been slabbed. You know, I'm not saying that upgrading a raw book, because I've certainly done this. Upgrading a raw book is not it's not easy. It can't be. Of course, it depends on the book. But I found that I've had the most success with the bigger books when I already have a lower grade copy slabbed, in particular CGC. I know we could sit back and argue back and forth about the grading companies and who's better, who grades better. That's a topic for another video. But when it comes to upgrading, I found that it's much easier to sell off if you have to do that, or if you want to do that. It's easier to sell off a CGC graded slab and get an upgrade more than, let's say, a PGX. Let me give you a quick little example. I recently upgraded a book. No big deal, but that same book, before I bought the copy that I have, which I consider the upgrade, I was looking at another copy on eBay. Now, the book, it doesn't matter. But here's when I'm talking about slabs and all that stuff that I've noticed. This slab is a PGX slab. Okay, now I don't mind buying PGX. I would buy it. But the seller has the book, and this is the way it's been for the last few months, at a price that I think is a little too high. Well, hey, if he or she can get that price, so be it, and it's the seller's price. But here's the thing. Here's one of the reasons why I don't think it has sold, aside from I think it's just a little too pricey. Or maybe it's not. The PGX slab. On the slab, it's a universal grade, which means that it has, universal grade, I think, across all the grading companies, whether it's PGX, CGC, or CBCS. A universal grade is that nothing has been done to the book. It hasn't been restored. But here's the thing. On this universal label for the PGX, it says that there have been tear seals with glue. Now, I may not necessarily be a restoration expert or someone that I would consider very, 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 very knowledgeable about restoration, because there are some things I know, I think, as all of us, and there are a lot of things I don't. But last time I checked, I think whenever there's a tear seal, isn't that restoration? I mean, you're taking glue to purposely seal a tear, wherever the tear may be. Last time I checked, that was restoration. So PGX puts this out there as a universal grade, and I think that's one of the reasons why some people have some hesitation with PGX. If they're putting a tear seal as non-restored on a universal label, imagine what they're doing when they don't mention some things. People will second guess. So I think that's one of the reasons why people really shy away from PGX and why the other two sell a little bit better. So for me, long story short, too late. Whenever I go to sell a book, it's always good to have the book, I feel, slabbed already, the book that you want to upgrade, and then go and try to get another book. Now, if you want to buy a raw upgrade, I've done that too. I typically don't. If I'm going to upgrade a book, let's say I want to upgrade, which I will down the line, my Tales of Suspense 52. I have a 3.0 copy, raw. So it's going to be, like I was saying, it's kind of hard to sell a raw copy, I think, to some people when it's a high dollar book and people are worried about restoration and other things. But anyway, that's a book that I definitely would like to upgrade. I'm not looking for a raw copy. I'd like to upgrade it to maybe a 5.0. And that's a point I'll get later, point to later on how, what kind of grade do you look for when you have a certain grade. I wouldn't upgrade to a raw book. Now, I'm not discouraging people from doing that. I typically, if I'm upgrading, I want the number on the slab. I want it in a slab. As much as some people do not like that, and to each his own, but that's what I usually go for typically. Now again, like I said, if I'm confident with the raw book that I want to upgrade to, I'll do that, but I usually don't. So first rule for me when I upgrade, it's easier when I have the lower grade copy slabbed to sell off to help put toward the higher grade, whatever that grade is. And I typically, when I'm looking for that higher grade, I go for a slab book, in particular CGC. Second thing, I mentioned that I like to sell off my lower grades. Now, not everybody has to do that, and be quite honest, I don't necessarily have to do that either, but I typically do. So, well, where do you go sell? I've had some success with selling. I mean, there's some books that I've tried to sell that don't sell as quickly as I would like or haven't sold at all. And I'll tell you, for me, I haven't had too much luck with selling on Instagram, but I've had luck selling on places like Facebook, more than Instagram, and I've had luck selling on Elite and Shortbox, which only takes slab books. I've had a lot of success with those too. That I said I don't have success on Instagram, and a Shortbox is Shortbox, but Elite is on Instagram. What I should have said was I don't have too much luck selling by myself on Instagram when I post something. Sure, I've sold a couple of things on Instagram by myself, but most of the time, if I sell something on Instagram, it's through Elite, and I've been successful in that aspect. By myself, not so much. And again, with Shortbox, which I think is very, very good, and Elite, which is very, very good, they only take slab books. So whenever I try to sell a slab book, that's the first place I go. And like I said, these last couple of minutes, I've had a lot of success selling with them. Now, let's say you don't have a slab book. Okay, so that means Elite and Shortbox is out. So where do you go? Like I mentioned, I usually sell on Facebook, and I sell on eBay too. I've had some success on eBay. I can't say I haven't. It's been pretty good, but I prefer to go elsewhere because, as we all know, eBay has a lot of fees. You have the eBay fee, and then you get hit with the PayPal fee. Well, it's really like the eBay fee is a little high, more so. But it's sometimes it's a pain in the butt selling on eBay. But I can't say I haven't had success. I've had success with eBay. So those are the places that I'll go when I want to sell a book to raise funds or raise extra funds to pay for a bigger book, to pay for an upgrade that I bring into my collection. And the very, very last thing, and I think I might have mentioned this in a previous video when I was talking about upgrades. I think I might have mentioned this when I forget, I think it was Comic Book Haul number 49, maybe, something like that, when I upgraded my Incredible Hulk 181. I had a 6.0 and I upgraded to a 7.5. And I have a couple other upgrades that I'm going to talk about in other videos that I've made. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that you should be realistic when it comes to your upgrading. I am. Like I mentioned a few moments ago, I upgraded my Incredible Hulk 181. Now, for a very long time, I had a 6.0 copy slabbed. And as a matter of fact, the Incredible Hulk 181, that 6.0 I just mentioned, that was the very first slab book I bought. You know, I years ago, back in the 90s, they used to sell these hard cases where you could put your comic in it, where it was like a CGC slab, except without the grading and without the company behind it, without the CGC company behind it. And I thought, oh wow, this is cool. It'd be great if one day they did something like this where there'd be a grade on it. And when I came back to the hobby in 2013, 2014, and I didn't know what was going on in the hobby since the time I left in the mid 90s. When I came back almost 20 years later, after for several years up until that point, saying to myself that I'm going to get back into it, I'm going to get back into it. And then finally getting back into it, and I saw slab books. The first one I saw was a CGC. I was like, wow, they're actually doing that now. I think that's great. So my very first slab book was an Incredible Hulk 181, that's 6.0. And then my second was Giant Size X-Men #1, which was a 6.5. And the third that I remember was X-Men #2, which is 6.5. So I was really getting into slab books, although I still liked raw books, and I still do like raw books, but I was really getting into slab books. Anyway, as I digress a bit, try to be realistic when it comes to your upgrade. So like I said, I have a 6.0. I knew I wasn't going to be able to upgrade that 6.0 to an 8.5 or a 9.0. Financially speaking, I think that was just a little too unrealistic. Not that I didn't have the money, because I most certainly did. I just can't justify spending that much. And that's where it gets into my other points that I made, where, I sold off the 6.0. And of course, it didn't cover the 7.5, but it covered a majority of it. And I made a couple other minor sales that paid for the 7.5. Sales that I couldn't care less about. Books that I no longer wanted. But regardless of all that, I thought that the 7.5, which was only a point and a half higher than my 6, simple math, it was realistic, and it was much better, I think. 6.0 compared to a 7.5. 7.5 is much better, I think, than a 6.0. I would even argue that a 7.0 is worth getting. Well, 1 point hike than the 6.0. So the point is, what I'm trying to say is just be realistic with your grading, with your upgrading. There are several books, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video. I think 2023 for me is going to be the year of the upgrade. I think in 2018 was probably my best year in collecting. That was when I got the Amazing Fantasy 15. I got my other X-Men #1. I got Crime Patrol 15. I got the Hulk 1, which was restored, but still pretty good. So that was like the greatest year for me when it came to collecting. It was the year of the major keys, as I often think about it. Well, 2023 is going to be the year of the upgrade, and I'm thinking that some major keys, not the Amazing Fantasy 15, but I do think that the major keys like X-Men #1 and Daredevil #1 are going to be upgraded that year. So that's going to be nice. So again, in my mind, and I would tell all of you, be realistic. Be realistic with what you want to get, what you want to upgrade, so it doesn't become frustrating. As we know, sometimes getting books, whether right now in the market where things are going down, which I think is great for me, I'm not panicking. I'm not like, oh my God, I got to sell off my collection. No, I'm like, oh, great. Because, a lot of those big keys, 2018, I think or 2019 was the last year where those books were still pricey, but they didn't get to the ridiculous prices of 2020 and 2021. I didn't buy them at the top of the, when they were super, super high. So I still, even today, I still did pretty well on them. But I'm trying to be realistic. I have a 2.5 Daredevil #1. I probably would like a 4.0, maybe a 4.5. I think that's realistic. I have a 3.0 X-Men #1. I think a 4.0, 4.5 would be realistic. I'm not going to jump from a 3.0 to a 6.5. It's just financially speaking, that's just not realistic. And like I was saying earlier, a few moments ago, yeah, just trying to get these books in general could be frustrating, but trying to upgrade them to something that's unrealistic could equally be frustrating. So I don't even waste my time doing that. I won't even waste my time thinking about that. And here's the takeaway from all of this. Whether you're jumping up from a 3.0 to a 4.0 or a 3.0 to a 4.5, 1 point, point and a half, maybe 2 points, always keep in mind that when you get that upgraded copy, you could always upgrade it again. It's upgrading to me is like climbing a ladder. You know, it's one step at a time, or sometimes 2 steps at a time, depending how comfortable you are climbing that ladder. You know, and it's never over. You never have to settle. But even if you just said, well, I only upgraded to a 6, or I only upgraded to a 5, or I only upgraded to a 6.5, well, it's better than what you had. And now you're in a better position that someday to upgrade that 6 or that 6.5 to maybe a 7.5 or an 8.0. Like I said, it's like a ladder upgrading, and it could be just as pleasurable as getting that new book that you always wanted. It really, well, at least it is that way for me. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and for the rest of this year, I'm going to try to release 2 more videos. I'm going to see if I can release my top 10 or top 12 purchases of 2022, and then of course I'm going to do the top 10 books I want for 2023. But I'm telling you right now, they're probably going to be upgrades. But we'll see what happens. These lists are never static. I think, you know, trying to what the top 23, the top 10 books you want for this year or that year, it always changes, for me at least. Sometimes other people stick with their guns pretty closely when it comes to these upgrades, but we'll see what happens. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and take care.